We are now resuming our Torah studies after Pesach. Shalom, shalom. So today we're talking about inspiration. Today we're talking about a very peculiar encounter that happens in the Torah with the two sons of Aaron. It's the name of this week's Torah portion, Acharei Mot. It's on page 715 in the blue Chumash. Let's take a look at the name of the portion. What's going on over here? The name is After They Died. That's the name of the portion. After they died. After who died? Opa. I used to be a pitcher, a catcher in my previous life. Okay. Page 715. God spoke to Moshe on the 1st of Nisan, 2449. That's not so long ago, just 3,336 years ago. Immediately after the tragic death of Aaron's two sons that occurred on that day. Okay. And then we're introduced to the rest of the portion, which is all about the service of Yom Kippur. But these are the opening words of our portion about the death of the sons of Aaron. Now, why did the sons of Aaron die? Let's just talk about this for a moment. Aaron is the brother of Moses. He's the older brother of Moses. So remember there were 7 wicked people that banished the divine presence from this world. They were Adam. I mean, sin. I'm not going to call him wicked, but he made a sin, right? Adam. And the 6 subsequent sinners. And then there were 7 righteous people. They were Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Levi, Kehat, Amram, and Moshe. These are the 7 righteous people that brought the divine presence back to this world. Now, Moshe's older brother is Aaron. He's a great-grandfather. He's the Kohen. Anyone who's a Kohen today is a descendant of Aaron, the high priest. So now what happens is that Aaron has 4 sons. Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, and Itamar. Their entire life, their vision, their passion has been to break free from Egypt. Let my people go so that they may serve me. That's the vision. This is the mission statement, the vision statement of the Jewish people. Let my people go so that they may serve me. Nice. Now, well, hold on. Let's build the case. So now comes, they broke out of Egypt. Very nice. And now they're received the Torah Mount Sinai. Amazing. And God tells them, listen, I want a relationship with you that's not just temporary, that's inspired from above, which is the revelation of Mount Sinai. It was like a shock and awe revelation. They saw the sounds. They heard the visions. This is a miraculous encounter at Mount Sinai. God says, listen, I want a relationship with you that's more permanent. I'd like you to build me a home. And hence, they get commanded to build the tabernacle, which is like the temple. It's the original temple. They build the tabernacle at the center of the tabernacle is the Ark of the Covenant. And here the Torah tells us a shocking story that Aaron's 2 sons, Nadav and Avihu, they actually died. Let's take a quick look at that story so we can get a little more insight into it. You'll find it page 661, I think it is. No. I think it's 659. Yeah, 659. You know what? Even more accurate would be on 656, middle of the page. 656. Let's take a look at what these guys did. The sons of Aaron. This is a bit of an anticlimax, in light of the bigger story, right? You just built the temple, and now the rabbi's sons have to die. Like, this is terrible. What a terrible story. Like, what's going on here, right? And this is the name of our Torah portion this week. Like, let's understand. Let's get it. And why is this important for us to understand? Okay, so they died. So why do we have to know this? 656, middle of the page. Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, each took out a pan. They put coals that were on fire in it, placed incense upon the fire, and thus brought before God into the Holy of Holies a fire that was foreign, i.e., unauthorized, as far as they were concerned, inasmuch as he has not commanded them to offer it up or offer it up this way, although he had commanded Moses to offer it up. 657. No. You go now from 656 to 659. Go to 659. Don't bother about the page order. We're now in 659. Okay, I'm just going to read the main word, the bold words, which is the direct translation. The fire went forth from before God and consumed them, and they died before God. Moses said to Aaron, this is what God spoke when he said, I will be sanctified through those nearest to me, and I will be honored before all my people, all the people. Aaron was silent. Moses summoned Mishael and Elzaphan, the cousins, the sons of Aaron's uncle Uzziel, and said to them, draw near and carry your dead relatives from before the sanctuary to outside the camp. So they approached and carried Nadav and Avihu, the corpses who were still dressed in their intact priestly tunics, to outside the camp as Moses had spoken. And that's the end of the story. So the Gemara, the Medrash actually gives us several reasons as to why they died, because you notice that the Torah is pretty mysterious about why they died. So one answer, which we saw there in the commentary that we just read, was that they entered unauthorized into a place that they shouldn't have, without security clearance. Another explanation in the Medrash is that they served in the temple without being properly dressed. They weren't wearing the priestly garments. You know, remember, they went into the Holy of Holies. Only the high priest goes into the Holy of Holies. And only one day a year on Yom Kippur, which is today's Torah portion. It's all about Yom Kippur. They weren't wearing the high priest clothing. They weren't high priests. So they were, number one, they were unauthorized. And number two, they were not sufficiently dressed. The third reason, interesting, is that they had no sons. They had no children. Isn't that interesting? They were punished with death because they had no children. Ooh. Another reason in the Medrash, a fourth reason, is that they had no wives. See, it's a sin not to be married.
Yeah. Quiet. On my wife's birthday.
Yeah, it's your wife's birthday today. Happy birthday, Shem.
Happy birthday.
So, this is quite a diverse group of reasons here. I mean, Rob is a gape, right? No. No wives. They died because they had no wives. I mean, seriously, imagine you punish the death sentence on people that weren't married. Like, seriously, that's pretty intense. Or they had no children. Seriously, is that their fault? They weren't properly dressed. What is this, Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue, right? And that they entered unauthorized into a place that they didn't belong. Like, what's going on in here, guys? Seriously, it's the name of the Torah portion. It's not some obscure story that we never heard of before. This is serious stuff. Like, why do we need to know about this information? Additionally, if you look in the verse, and back to our verse on page 715, you'll notice a bit of an anomaly. I'd like to point it out to you in the Hebrew, in 714. It's very difficult to see this in the translations. Just look in 714 in the Hebrew. I'm going to translate the first verse directly, page 714. It's our portion, our verse. It says like this. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe, and Hashem spoke to Moshe. Acharei Mot shenei bnei Aharon, after the death of the two sons of Aaron. So we know that they died already, right? Hashem spoke to Moshe after the death of the two sons of Aaron. V'karva sam lifnei Hashem, when they came too near to Hashem. Vayamusu, and they died. How many times did they die? We already know that they died. Again, you have to tell me that they died. Hashem spoke to Moshe after the death of the sons of Aaron, who came too close to the holy temple, and they died. There's no redundancies in the Torah. So why would the Torah twice tell us that they died? Like, what's happening over here, right? Another thing we have to understand is that none of an Avihu were clearly righteous people. How could it be that they sinned something so egregious for which they were deserving of the death penalty? Like seriously, what's going on over here? These were great sages. These were mystics. They died or they were killed. What's going on over here? You're going to understand the story. So, Chassidus is the one source that explains this to us. It's actually the Rebbe who explains this to us. No, it's not the Rebbe. This would have been in 1889. No, 1889 would be the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Rebbe, the Rebbe Shmuel, whose birthday is actually next week. So he explains it as follows: a very, very beautiful and practical explanation. Because it's a little difficult to understand what's going on. He says like this. He says they died not despite the fact that they were righteous. They died because they were exceedingly righteous. Ooh, that's interesting. Being too righteous can get you killed. What happened was that within their hearts burned a fiery passion, a powerful yearning to cleave to God. Remember, we spoke about the mission statement? Let my people go so that they may serve me. This is their life's vision, was to cleave to God. That's what they wanted. They were raised from birth. They were born into Egyptian slavery, right? Breaking free from the bondage of Egypt, finally coming to Mount Sinai. They knew that they didn't have access on Mount Sinai to get up the mountain. Only Moses got clearance. And by the way, remember what it says on the mountain? It says, whoever touches the mountain. You remember what it says about the mountain?
Yeah, they'll die.
Ooh. It says, whoever touches the mountain will die. And that over there holds the secret, the key. What's wrong with touching the mountain? Because it says holy ground. Remember what Moses is told by God at the burning bush?
Take off your shoes.
Why take off your shoes?
Holy
For the ground upon which you're standing is holy ground. That's what he told them, right? So we're getting a picture over here of the closer you get, the more holy the place becomes. The more holy the place becomes, the more dangerous it becomes. The more restricted. Now, restriction isn't only because we're a snooty homeowners association that doesn't allow people in, but because you don't come in here because it's dangerous for you, because you can't handle it. It was this yearning, this passion, this fire that they had within their souls to cleave to God that actually led them to a state that we call kalot hanefesh. Kalot hanefesh means the ecstasy of the soul, or the it's more than ecstasy. Kalot means the expiration of the soul. Their soul simply escaped from their bodies because of its intense yearning to cleave to God. The example that I like to give about this is I never really tried this. Maybe you can help me. If you have a big bonfire and you bring a little flame near to it, what's going to happen if it comes close? There's some sort of a magnetic pull, right? The fire, it like sucks it in. We are individual flames. We're little baby souls. We're little individual souls. Every one of us is a little tiny sliver, a little tiny piece, a shaving of God's essence. That's our soul. And now if you come too close to God's essence, which is the holy temple, what happens? You come close. Too close. It's going to jump out of your body if you enter into a restricted space. So now it's starting to make sense. The first reason that we said that they died because they weren't authorized to enter. On the one hand, we're speaking of their greatness and their desire to love God. But in truth, it was actually a sin here, right? Because they allowed their souls to sweep them off their feet, quite literally. And that's not what God wants us to do. The reason why God put us in this world was not to escape this world. The reason that God put us in this world was to experience this world, to live as a Jew and not to die as a Jew. That's a very powerful concept right here. You know, other religions tend to glorify death. Have you ever seen Jews glorifying death? We're always heartbroken. But think about it. This is the twisted jihad mindset, is that they actually want to die because they believe
60 virgins.
72.
72.
Unless the number's going down in the negotiations. Yeah. Right. So 72 virgins. They actually believe, and they teach their children that heaven is a better place. Heaven is a better place. Now, even Christians talk about this. You often hear Christians say, very interesting, and they mean very well. They say, he's in a better place now. They mean well. They're like, look, he's with God. They actually mean well. That's nothing as barbaric, God forbid, as the jihadist. But they really mean well. But Jews don't say that. Very, very interesting, the discrepancy. Jews don't say that. They don't say he's in a better place. You know why? Because here is where we want him. There might be more comfortable. Here is where you're more needed. God didn't put us in this world so that we could evacuate this world. God didn't put us in this world so that at the first opportunity we could find an escape hatch and push the eject button and get the heck out of here. He put us in this world so that we could live in this world, engage in this world, and experience this world. And everything that we touch turns to light, through the doing of the mitzvahs. We got pavers being delivered here. There's a huge truck outside. It took me time to get in here. There was actually a traffic jam on Fairview Lane today. Can you imagine? There's actually a traffic jam on Fairview. There's one address on Fairview Lane, and that's the Chabad Palm Beach Gardens, right? And there was a traffic jam because there's a huge truck with I don't know how many pavers over here today. These pavers are becoming sanctified. They're becoming part of the sanctuary, part of the shul, right? Think about it. They become sanctified. That's what's happening. It's beautiful. Holy ground. There you go. I love it, right? So, by the way, you can do that in your house too. I want to ask you a question, Michael. Is your dining room table holy ground? Only you can decide. Why not? If you have a Shabbos meal over there, so maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. You can make a decision. Friday night, we do Shabbos dinner at the table. Think about that. Imagine you make kiddush. Imagine you had challah. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Think about it. You may be sanctified. Is that me? That is me. Sorry. Sorry, it's actually whatever. So, that's actually called from the Western Wall. Somebody at the Western Wall. Right now. Yeah, Al Newman is there. What? So let me just expand on this idea.
He's negotiating more territory.
You've heard me say the story. I'm going to repeat it just for a dramatic effect. The story of the mayor, the non-Jewish mayor, wants to get to experience the Jewish community. Calls up the rabbi and he says, "Rabbi, I'd like to spend Shabbat with you guys." You know the story. I've said the story. I'm going to say it in brief, very brief. So basically, the rabbi says, "Of course, come spend Shabbos with me." Comes in before Shabbos. The rabbi has a l'chaim with him. Warm up, They go to shul. They daven. After shul, they say kiddush at shul. There's overflowing wine. They come home. Again, they make kiddush, overflowing wine. Throughout the meal, there's l'chaim, there's tequila, there's whiskey, there's vodka. There's plenty drink. At the end of the meal, there's wine. They bless the grace after meals with overflowing wine. The next morning, they go to shul. It's kiddush. It's a bar. They come home. It's kiddush. There's overflowing wine, right? It's benching. Afternoon, end of Shabbos. There's Havdalah, overflowing wine. The mayors have a great time. He's after Shabbos, he comes to the rabbi. He says, "Rabbi, it's wonderful staying with you for Shabbos. I've learned so much about the Jewish people. I still don't understand why you can't flick the light switch on the Shabbos, but I completely understand why you guys don't drive on the Shabbos." We Jews, we drink a lot. I was sitting on an airplane once. There was a kid. There's a Christian kid sitting me next to me on the plane. It was one of these late night flights, and I ordered myself gin and tonic. Sitting on the plane, this kid is horrified.
Rabbi drinks.
Is that what I think it is? I'm like, what do you think it is? Is that alcohol? Yeah, you want some?
7 years old.
I guess priests don't drink, right?
It's not supposed to.
Oh, okay, fine.
Really?
I didn't know that. Priests aren't supposed to drink.
That's not true.
I didn't know that.
Whatever.
The Muslims don't
I
drink.
grew up with a lot of kids.
Muslims don't drink, right? Muslims don't drink. Yeah, the Christians don't eat fish or meat or something on certain Friday. Every Friday? Every Friday, no meat?
Yeah,
Never on Fridays.
On Friday, not supposed to.
Okay, fine. There you go. Interesting. Now, Jews, anytime there's a party, the bar is overflowing. You know what I mean? We never shy away from this stuff, And for example, marriage. Marriage is a mitzvah. It's holy. The word for marriage is the word for Kaddish, is the word for holy. Marriage is holy. Now, the Christian priests, they don't get married. Now, not to denigrate anybody else, but I'm just trying to emphasize the point. In Judaism, the first mitzvah in the Torah is to be married, because you've got to be part and parcel of this world and all the pleasures of this world. The question is, are you using them for the right reasons? That's the question, right? You know that when you're engaged in marital intimacy, you're supposed to be thinking purposeful thoughts. It's not supposed to be that you're doing it for selfish indulgence. I know this is not easy, but you're supposed to be thinking about doing it for the sake of the mitzvah, doing it for the sake of sanctifying this world and making it a holy place. This applies to food. This applies to drink. This applies to beautiful homes. Beautiful homes.
That's why the woman's always yelling, "Oh Hashem, oh Hashem."
That's his, yeah.
That's fine.
I'm thinking. I'm also thinking something else. Is it a sin to drive a beautiful car? Think about that. No? Is there any other religion that would look at a fancy car, and say that it's inappropriate? I don't think so, right? I don't think they have problems with that. In fact, maybe it's somebody said to me that some of these pastors that have private jets. You heard about this? These big pastors. I said, maybe it's time for us to also
Mega
get
church, you need a mega church.
I could use a private jet. Yeah, anyway, so my point is, where am I going with all this? Is that God put us in this world not to escape this world, but in order to infuse holiness into this world. And this is exactly the sin of Nadav and Avihu, and why it's becoming so important to name the whole Torah portion after them, right? After the death of the sons of Aaron, because here they are. Now we're tying in all four reasons together. Remember, we said there were four reasons that they were not authorized, that they were not dressed properly, didn't have sons, and weren't married, right? All tying together, right? So they weren't authorized, which means they entering into a place. That's actually a different reason, which is actually related, by the way. If you think about it, it's related. So they went unauthorized into a place. They weren't supposed to leave this world. They were supposed to stay in this world. Not dressed. What does it mean, not dressed? Not dressed means that they didn't have the mitzvahs. The word mitzvah, by the way, in Aramaic means a garment. Means a garment. They didn't have the mitzvahs that they needed in order to protect themselves from the divine revelation. When Mashiach comes, it says godliness will be revealed. It's kind of like staring at the sun. Are you able to stare at the solar eclipse? Never. But if you're wearing the right protective eye gear, then you can look at it, right? Right? So the same thing as with mitzvahs. Mitzvahs is the right protection to allow you to experience and enjoy the revelation, right? They didn't have sons, didn't get married. Obviously, it means that they weren't engaged in this world. They were trying to escape this world. That's what their whole mission was. I'm not investing in this world with a wife or children. I'm getting out of here. It's first opportunity. I'm taking the first exit I can. And that was their sin. Now, they died not despite they were righteous, but because they were righteous. Turns out it wasn't even a punishment. It was exactly what they wanted. They weren't even being punished. They weren't even being punished. They got exactly what they wanted. They wanted to be close to God. They got close to God. Right? That's what happened. They literally left this world and they got close to God. But now the Torah portion this week says like this. You guys just finished Pesach. You just came out of Pesach, which is the festival of our freedom. And you might have taken Pesach very, very seriously and come to the conclusion that Pesach is not only about escaping from ancient geographic tormentors, but even modern psychological tormentors. And you might have decided that I am no longer being a slave to the rule of my country club. I am going to control the conversation around the table of my country club. I'm going to talk about elevated ideas. You might decide that there's more to my life than a round of golf. I am going to leave behind all of the physical pleasures of my country club. And now I'm going to spend all day, every day in shul. That's the wrong approach. No, you're not supposed to do that. And I've seen it so many times. People that become more religious. And they're free now from their shackles. And they want to go overboard and they want to move to Israel. And the guy's a top-notch, successful attorney. And he wants to leave behind his job. And he wants to just study Torah all day in Jerusalem. And I say, no, you can't do that. That's not what it's about. You're not supposed to be an ascetic, right? You're not supposed to be an ascetic. You're supposed to live as a Jew, not to die as a Jew. Don't leave this world. Live in this world. And you know what? What would happen if you're a top-notch attorney and you actually would bring your tefillin to the workplace and in your office you'd lay tefillin? What would happen if you would have a charity box on your desk? If you would study Torah every day in your office? If you had used your boardroom for Torah classes? What would happen? What's happening now is, my brother is an orthopedic surgeon, right, in Israel. He's an orthopedic surgeon. So people come to him. He specializes in the hand and the wrist, anything from the elbow to the end. And people come to him from all over Israel. Highly respected surgeon in Israel. And he says to him, look, do you want to get healed or not? And the guy says, Rabbi, doctor, I'll do anything. So he says, look, if you really want to get healed, then this is the medication you should take. This is the therapy you should do. I'm recommending against surgery, but if you really want to get healed, I recommend that you lay tefillin. And he lays tefillin with them, and he says, look, if you're willing to commit to lay tefillin every day, I'm going to pay for half your pair. That's what he tells them. So here's a guy who's a faithful medical practitioner. He's a doctor who doesn't only believe in the body, he also believes in the soul. He sees the holistic approach. We're realizing that beyond the body, which is a corpse, there is also life in there, and the life is what's going to give you healing. So you need both Hashem's intervention as well as natural resources, and together you'll be successful. Imagine you can live a life like that. And that's the reason why we Jews are digging into the cholent and the kishke and the yap chicken and whatever else, right? And the herring and the kichel and the wine and the open bar, because we're not here to escape the pleasures of this world. Get married, have children, build a nice house, drive a nice car. Make money, make a lot of money. The more money you make, the more you give to charity. The more you can use it for good things, right? Don't escape the world, right? This is the mission of the Jewish people. Let me just tie this all together, because remember, we've learned that our mission in this world is to create for God a home in this world. And what's going to happen if you escape this world? There's no way you can build a home for God in this world if you're not here anymore, right? The goal is for the soul to be specifically inside of a body, and while it's inside of a body, to transform your physical existence into a way that is receptive to spirituality and to holiness. Where does that receptivity come from? In our consciousness, right? So when we in our homes, we say, I'm putting up a mezuzah on my door. I'm putting a mezuzah on every door, right? I'm using my phone to study Torah. Right? What's happening is that with your consciousness and your choices, you're choosing to allow Hashem into places that Hashem hasn't been given access to before. So instead of you trying to get into God's private space, Hashem wants to get into your private space. That's the mission why He put us into this world. A person's mission in this world is to sanctify the world, to make it pure, to elevate it, and to change it from within, to the point that this world becomes an actual home for God, a place where God feels comfortable. Kalois HaNefesh, which is the expiration of the soul, is effectively escapism, running away from our mission. It's abandoning ship. It's absconding the mission which God gave to every one of us. And that's why the act of Nadav and Avihu, the sons of Aaron, was considered a sin. And you've seen what we've done. We've tied together all four reasons, which seem to have been disjointed, into one cohesive explanation. Now we can finally understand why the verse repeats when they came close to God and they died. Again, let's look at that verse again. So God spoke to Moshe after the passing of the sons of Aaron, when they came close to God and they died, because the reason why they died is actually a direct result of their coming close to God. So the fact that they died is what the verse tells us first. But the second time it says they died is telling us why they died. It's not an unnecessary repetition. It's telling us that the reason why they died is because they came too close to God. They tried to abandon ship. They tried to leave this world. And now we can connect all the reasons together. So first of all, they entered into an unauthorized place, which means they became too spiritually elevated in a place that they shouldn't have been. Not wearing enough clothing, it was the second reason. Clothing represents the mitzvahs, as I mentioned, right? And these mitzvahs, physical observance of the mitzvahs, is what Nadav and Avihu were not indulging in. The fact that they weren't married, reason number 4, and the fact that they had no sons, reason number 3 and 4, the fact they had no sons, expresses the fact that they were not interested in investing in this world. The lesson we learned from here, on a very practical level, is that as Jews, we have times when we're inspired. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, right? Certain times of the year, you might feel spiritually uplifted and inspired. And certain times of the day, you might feel spiritually uplifted when you're in Talis and Tefillin, right? Maybe a certain time of the week, maybe on Shabbos, you feel spiritually uplifted, right? Once a week, once a year, once a day. What are you going to do with that inspiration when you feel a yearning to reach higher? We have to remember that the purpose is to channel that inspiration downwards into physical action. And that way, when we do that, we're actually fulfilling our purpose. I want to give you a quick story, a quick example. The Gemara tells us an amazing story. I don't know if I'll find it over here right now. But the story is in the Gemara Chagiga. Give me a second, maybe. I'll do a quick look if I see it. I don't see it. The Gemara Chagiga tells us a story.
You know which one it is.
No, I didn't see it here. It's probably somewhere, but I'm not scanning it well enough. Okay, whatever. The Gemara Chagiga tells us that there were 4 sages who were going into the divine orchard. The divine orchard is a very enigmatic place, which is a little difficult for us to understand what that's even talking about. But basically, these 4 sages were Ben Zoma, Ben Azai, Rabbi Elisha ben Avuya, and Rabbi Akiva. 4 sages. Okay, so they go into this orchard. Now, the Talmud says then in the Gemara Chagiga, a very strange story, that one of them, he peeped and died. Another one, he entered and he lost his mind. The third one lost his faith. And only Rabbi Akiva was entered in peace and left in peace. What a strange story, right? What on earth is this orchard that's so dangerous? The word orchard in Hebrew is pardes. Pardes is an acronym for the 4 levels of interpretation of Torah. Pshat, remez, drush, sod. Literal, allegorical, sermonic, and secret. These are the 4 levels of interpretation of Torah. For example, the Medrash today gave us 4 reasons as to why they died. Right? That would have been more on an allegorical explanation. But when we brought the reason from Chassidus that tied them all together into one cohesive explanation, that was more the secret of Torah. Right? So when they enter the orchard, it means that they plumbed the depths of the secrets of Torah. They entered divine wisdom, a place where they were not really ready to enter. Hence, we now understand why Ben Azai was the one who looked and died. We understand why he looked and died. It was too much for him to handle. Just like the sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu. He entered too far into where he should not have been, and he died. The second one, Ben Zoma, was an interesting result. He lost his mind. Don't know how that works, but it's got something to do with losing your life, losing your mind. I guess something snapped inside of him. The third one lost his faith. That's very interesting. Elisha ben Avuya couldn't handle the cognitive dissonance between the world that he saw and the world that he lives in. He couldn't straddle both lanes, right? Very interesting. This is very deep stuff, but I'm just touching on it on a surface level. And it was only Rabbi Akiva who was able to emerge in peace. And the Rebbe explains that the reason why he emerged in peace is because the Talmud makes clear to let us know that he entered in peace. Because Rabbi Akiva understood what we're learning today. He understood that the purpose is shalom. The purpose is peace in this world. The purpose is not to escape this world. The other 3 guys that were entering with an aspiration, maybe it's time to check out. And they kind of got what they wanted. They certainly checked out of life the way they knew it beforehand. But Rabbi Akiva was the one that said, life is down here, and any inspiration that I'm going to experience will be channeled downwards to make me into a better Jew, a more passionate Jew, a more committed Jew, a better husband, a better father, a better brother, a better teacher, a better student, right? And that's what he did. And the reason why he was able to survive and to endure that intense revelation is because he came in with a proper mindset. For us on a very practical level, folks, to wrap this all up, I think we need to say it like this. As we grow in our spirituality, as we grow in our Jewish observance, every one of us on his own level, it's easy for us to leave behind our friends. It's easy to say, there's certain people I don't hang out with them anymore. There's a guy here in the show, he used to hang out with people that were like anti-Israel, just anti-Israel, anti-rabbis, anti-Jewish, just everything like that, anything they could just mock, they would. And he always felt a little uncomfortable about it, but he stuck with that group. The more he got engaged with us, the more he tells me that he has nothing to do with them anymore, with those friends. And I said to him, you shouldn't do that. You should go back to them and open their eyes. Have the courage, go back into the lion's den. Or I said, invite me, I'll come with you. And I'd love to, have a little stump the rabbi session. Ask the rabbi, see how it goes, right? What's the worst that can happen? So, but he's very reluctant to do it. And I can understand why, because it's like a very toxic environment for him. But imagine, there's a rabbi I'm in touch with. He was here exactly just about a year ago. Rabbi, I forget his last name, but from Krefeld, Germany. He's a rabbi from Krefeld, Germany. He was born in Krefeld, and he became the Chabad rabbi in Krefeld. Can you imagine? So he became religious, and instead of running away from his birthplace, he actually came back. Same thing happened to the Chabad rabbi in Budapest. Also, he was raised in Budapest, became a Chabad rabbi, and he came back. And now he's the rabbi of Budapest. What a beautiful idea that you were able to come back to your roots, and instead of rejecting your past, you're able to embrace it with strength and with confidence. On a Friday night when we dive in the Friday night service, we say Lecha Dodi, right? We're running away from the 6 days of the week, and we're entering into the peace of Shabbos. Leave me alone. I don't go back there. And during Lecha Dodi, we turn around and we face backwards. Because the Torah is teaching us, don't ever run away from your past. Your journey is what made you who you are today.
Is that what any demons or anything that might be pulling you down?
I would think so. And obviously, each one is a case-by-case analysis. And if you ever wanted to, I'd be happy to walk you through that if you wanted to share any particular questions with me about how you can navigate certain demons, because not all demons are the same, right? But the question is, if you're able to go back to the place that only you can go back to and illuminate that darkness without getting sucked into it, that's what you got to be careful of. You don't go into that swamp and discover that sinking sand, right? That it's quicksand and get sucked back in, God forbid, right? You want to make sure that you've got the fortitude and the strength to be able to illuminate that space. Instead of escaping the world, you go back into it with faith and with fortitude. The mission, like Rabbi Akiva, Nichnas B'Shalom, he's entering in peace. And if you can do that, you're fulfilling your purpose in this world. And that's what today's Torah portion is all about. Channeling inspiration.
See you all in the morning.